Texas wines, and we have a Texas legend here, third generation, Mr. Nolan Newsom, representing Newsom Wineries out in Comfort, Texas. Of course, the grapes come from the great
Texas High Plains.
Texas High Plains. If you don't know about the Texas High Plains, you need to know about them. So we're going to tell you a little bit about them. We have Carter Rollins over here, winemaker for the Cellar Door. I'm Ron Holstenback. This is Nolan Newsom. This gentleman over here on the end is Pablo Balki.
Peruvian, German, Texan wine rep for Newsom Vineyards.
All right, well, I'm going to let Mr. Nolan, he's going to give us some history of Texas and then talk about the history of his winery. And then we're going to taste 5 wines.
Texas has a very long history in wine grapes. The first wine grapes in America were actually planted in El Paso, Texas in the late 1500s with the Catholic monks. And there was a lot more wine grapes in Texas than there was in California originally. Prohibition in Texas almost killed the wine industry in Texas, and only one winery survived Prohibition, and that was Valverde Winery in Del Rio. They are actually a 7th generation winery currently, 160 years old at this point. Their grapevines there are the oldest surviving grapevines in Texas. Lots of history in Texas and Texas wine. Our story begins when my dad was a freshman at Texas Tech University, and one of his tech professors was Dr. Mitchell, and they were making wine in the basement of the Texas Tech Chemistry building.
We're going to go, whoop.
When they got kicked out of the basement of the chemistry building at Tech, they were the founders of Llano Estacado Winery in Lubbock, Texas, first winery to open after Prohibition in the 1970s. Dad, when he ended up back at the farm eventually, or bought a farm and started farm, they were growing cotton, experimenting with other crops for alternate forms of income. Started learning wine, and my grandparents said, well, Neil, if you're going to do wine grapes, we're going to do it too. So they finally got to looking into it and ordered the first transplants for Newsom Vineyards from California, from the nursery, and they each planted 1 acre of Cabernet vines 35 years ago, and that is the oldest surviving Cabernet vines in Texas currently.
So these vines are older than you.
By a few months anyway. My dad says it really well. We all stand on the shoulders of the greats that came before us. Ended up at Tech and studied other things and let my family talk me into going back and being the vineyard manager about 10 years ago now. So I was the vineyard manager several years, planted my own vineyard. And while I was the vineyard manager, I met May Newsom. My wife was the first graduate from Texas Tech University with a degree in winemaking. The industry is actually very small in Texas. There's not many people we don't know, even though there's over 500 wineries in the state. Most of the wine grapes in Texas are grown southwest of Lubbock on the Texas High Plains, and it's somewhere between 85 and 90%. It's over 5,000 acres in the Texas High Plains. So most of the wine grapes in Texas are grown out in the desert, because in that part of Texas there's no humidity, so there's very little disease pressure. There's no trees, so there's no birds, no deer, no raccoons. So we trade all of that for late freezes and hailstorms. Hill country, where all the rest of the wineries in Texas are, the ones that use Texas fruit usually import it from the Texas High Plains. There's not that many vineyards in the hill country. So we currently sell wine grapes to 18 different wineries, and in 2013 started making our own wine under our own wine label. And that was the start of it for Newsom Vineyards wines, at least, and that has been my project as a 3rd generation grape grower. So my official title is Overqualified Damned Amateur. So the wines that I brought for us to try today is a varied selection that Mr. Ron picked out here. The first one here is an Alvarinho, which is a Spanish white grape. Spain's equivalent of a Viognier or a Chardonnay, so this is an unoaked wine, so it is a nice crisp white, similar to a Sauvignon Blanc. This one was made by May Newsom at Driftwood Estate Winery, where she is currently the winemaker. To me, it has notes, crisp notes of pineapple, maybe some honeysuckle and honeydew melon. This one is a 14.9% alcohol white, which is actually very high for a white.
Well, anyway, thanks so much for coming out and
Yes, sir.
sharing your fantastic wines with us, talking about Texas and what Texas is capable of as far as producing wines and growing wines on the Texas High Plains. We will be tasting these wines in-house here. Come out and see what Texas has to offer, at least on a quality level. I think we've all had Texas wines, but having quality Texas wines is a little bit different.
Thank y'all very much. Everybody enjoy their time at the Cellar Door. Newsom Vineyards will see you soon.